What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to Not Your Average Meta, an MTG Commander channel dedicated to bringing you decks and commanders you wouldn't normally find in your average meta. This week's video is brought to you by our new channel sponsor, International MTG. If you're looking for competitive pricing on your favorite MTG cards, old and new, be sure to check out the International MTG store and TCG Player, link in the description of this video. On this week's episode of Not Your Average Meta, we have our second installment of the Innistrad Showdown series, but this time we're featuring a game with werewolves, zombies, spirits, and vampires. First up, we have Martin, aka the Werewolf Guy, back again piloting Tovolar, Dire Overlord. With this deck, he's out to prove to the world that werewolves can indeed be competitive at a commander table by running wild all over his opponents. Next, we have Justin returning with the fan favorite and winner of our last Innistrad Showdown episode, Wilhelt the Rotcleaver. This deck looks to swarm the board with an unstoppable undead army in order to get another win. Then we have Fogrel playing as Azorius partner pairing of Rhoda, Geist Avenger, and Timin, Youthful Geist. This deck looks to cast spirits and take advantage of tapping down his opponent's creatures so he can pump up his commander and swing in for lethal commander damage. Lastly, we have Gavin playing Strefan, Maurer Progenitor becoming one with the Vampiric Bloodline. With this precon, Gavin was looking to slowly suck the life out of each of his opponents in order to get another win. Now that we have our fighters, let's step into the Thunderdome and see which deck will come out on top. Turn 1, Gavin plays a Swamp. Martin draws and plays a Forest, then a turn 1 Soul Ring. Justin draws and plays his own Swamp for turn. Fog draws and plays a Port Town, then flashes a Plains and Island to the camera to flex on his opponents. Gavin draws and plays a second Swamp. He then taps 2 for a tapped Fire Diamond. Martin draws, plays a Mountain, then taps 4 for Arlen Cord before using her Zero ability to create a 2/2 Wolf and transform her to Arlen Embraced by the Moon. Justin draws and plays a Tainted Isle for turn, then taps 2 for Dreadhorde Invasion. Fog draws, plays a Plains, and then passes. Gavin draws for turn, then taps 2 for a tapped Charcoal Diamond. Martin draws and plays another Forest. He then casts his commander Tovolar, turning into Day. He then casts a Scorn Villager and upticks Arlen before going to combat, swinging his Wolf token at Justin for 3 damage. He then draws 1 card off Tovolar. Justin starts his turn losing life and amassing 1. He then draws and plays an island. Justin then taps 3 for Commander Sphere and passes. Fog draws for turn and plays an island before casting Commander Sphere of his own. Gavin untaps for turn and draws before tapping out to cast his commanders Strefan, Maurer Progenitor. Martin untaps for turn, and thanks to Tovolar, Day becomes night and he transforms all his humans into werewolves. He then draws for turn and plays a Mountain. He then taps out and casts a Nightbound Tovolar's Pack Leader. Martin then downtakes Arlen to hit Strefan for 3 damage, transforming her back into Arlen Cord. Martin then goes to his combat step. In response to attacks, Fog casts Usia Guard Approach, tapping Tovolar. Martin then swings his token at Gavin and his villager at Fog, taking them both down to 38 life. Martin then draws 2 cards from dealing damage with 2 wolves. Justin starts his turn losing life and amassing 1. Justin draws and plays a Sunken Hollow before tapping out to cast his commander Wilhelt. He then goes to his instep, sacking a zombie and drawing a card. Fog untaps and draws for turn before playing a Plains. He then taps out and casts his commander Rhoda, Geist Avenger. Gavin plays a Swamp for turn, then taps 1 to cast Vandal Blast, destroying Martin's Soul Ring. Gavin then taps 3 for a Dark Imposter. On his upkeep, night becomes day, transforming all of Martin's werewolves into humans, but because of Tovolar, day then becomes night, and they all transform back into wolves. Martin then plays a Mountain for turn, and then taps his villager, putting a counter on Rhoda. He then casts a Nightbound Savage Packmate and an Emerald Wolf. Martin then zeroes Arlen again, transforming her back and creating a wolf token. He then goes to combat and swings his pack leader at Fog, his commander at Justin, and his 3 wolf tokens at Gavin. Everybody takes their hits, and night becomes day, but thanks to Emerald Wolf, Martin's wolves stay the same. Justin starts his turn losing life and amassing 1. He then plays an Unclaimed Territory naming zombies, before going to his instep, sacking a zombie and drawing a card. Fog plays an island, then taps 3 for Niblets of the Mist, tapping Martin's Packmate, putting a counter on Rhoda. He then taps 2 for Vorok Battlehorns before equipping them to Rhoda. Fog then goes to combat and swings 5 at Arlen, and Martin blocks with a wolf token. Gavin draws for turn and plays a Malakar Blood Witch, draining the table for 2 life while he gains 6, going up to 32. At the end of his turn, Justin casts Go for the Throat, killing Martin's pack leader. At the beginning of Martin's turn, Day becomes Knight again and he draws for turn. He then plays a mountain for turn and casts Gyre Reach Bandit. Martin then uptakes Arlen to pump his board and goes to combat. He swings his pack leader and commander at Gavin, his bandit, Emberwolf, and villager at Fog, and then his 5 wolf tokens at Justin. In response, Fog cracks his Fury to draw a card. Fog blocks 1 wolf, then everyone takes her hits, and Martin draws 9 cards. Martin then casts Outland Liberator and passes. Justin starts his turn losing a life and amassing 1 before drawing. He then plays a swamp before floating 1 blue and sacking his Fury to draw a card. Justin then taps out and casts Rooftop Storm before casting an Undead Alchemist and Eternal Skylord for free, amassing 2. He then swings his 2 Decayed Zombies at Martin for 4 damage. Martin then mills 4 cards, hitting 1 creature, creating Justin 1 zombie token. He then goes to his end step, sacking a zombie and drawing a card. Fog draws for turn and plays the Plains, then he casts Fogwalker, keeping Martin's commander tapped. Fog then casts Said Done, tapping down Martin's other wolf, and in response, Martin taps 1 to sack it and destroys Justin's Rooftop Storm. He then goes to combat and swings his commander at Martin for 6 damage, and then nibbles at Arlen for 2, taking her out. Gavin draws and plays an Ancient Craving, drawing 3 and losing 3 life. He then plays a Command Tower for turn and passes. At the beginning of Martin's turn, Day becomes Knight again and he draws for turn. He then goes straight to combat, swinging his wolves at Fog and his tokens at Justin. Justin blocks 2 wolves and Fog blocks the bandit and villager. They then both take their damage and Martin draws 3 cards. Martin then casts Realmwalker, naming werewolves, a Duskwatch Recruiter, and a Mind Stone, making night become day. Justin starts his turn losing a life and amassing 1 before drawing. He then plays another swamp and taps 1 for his Soul Ring. He then casts Liliana's Mastery, creating 2 zombie tokens. Justin plays a tapped Sky Diamond and goes to combat, swinging his Alchemist and Commander at Martin. Martin blocks the Alchemist that takes 4, milling 4 cards, reveals 2 creatures, and gives Justin 2 more zombie tokens. He then goes to his end step, sacking a zombie and drawing a card. Fog draws and plays a Sky Cloud Expanse. He then taps 5 to cast his other commander, Timin, Youthful Guidance. At the beginning of combat, he taps down the Realmwalker, putting a counter on Rhoda. He then goes to combat, swinging Rhoda at Martin for 7 more commander damage. Gavin draws and plays a swamp for turn. He then taps out and casts Soren Markov and uses his +2 ability to shoot the Emberwolf for 2, killing it and gaining 2 life. At the beginning of Martin's turn, Day becomes Knight again and he draws for turn. Martin then casts Inara, Wolfed Familiar, and goes to combat. Fog then taps down Tovolar, putting a counter on Rhoda. Martin then swings all his wolves at Fog. Fog then blocks the Realmwalker, Villager, and Packmate. He then takes the rest of the damage and dies. Martin then draws 2 cards. Martin then casts a Silverfur Partisan, and night becomes day, and Tovolar transforms into a human. Justin starts his turn, losing a life, amassing 1, and dies. Gavin draws for turn, then he taps 6 to cast one of the new vampires from the pre-con set, Crossway Troublemakers. He then uses Soren to make Martin's life 10 and swings out at Martin. Martin blocks the Imposter and takes 4 while Gavin gains 4. Gavin then pays 2 life to draw a card off his Imposter dying. At the beginning of Martin's turn, Day becomes Knight again and he draws for turn. Martin then casts Primal Command, gaining 7 life and tutoring for a creature card. He then swings out at Gavin, who blocks his commander with his Troublemaker, and in response, Martin flashes in Howlpack Resurgence, buffing his wolves. Gavin then takes his 11 damage and Martin draws 4 cards. Night then becomes day and Tovolar transforms into a human. Gavin draws a turn to cast Anji's Ravager, Stormcloak Occultist, and Rakdos Signet. He then uptakes Soren, shooting Martin for 2 and gains 2 life. At the beginning of Martin's turn, Day becomes Knight again and he draws for turn. Martin then casts Primal Adversary, paying his extra cost 2 times. He then turns one of his lands into a wolf and swings out at Gavin. Gavin then blocks 3 of his creatures and goes down to 3 life, while Martin draws 2 cards. Gavin draws for turn to cast Vampiric Dragon, and then uptakes Soren, shooting Martin for another 2, gaining 2 life, before passing turn, knowing the end is near. Martin draws and then turns a land into a wolf and goes to combat, swinging out at Gavin for lethal damage. Keeping it in. The big winner of our second Innistrad Showdown episode is none other than the werewolf guy himself, Martin. Martin decided to grace us with his presence on the condition he could redeem himself with the wolf deck, and he definitely did that. Even though it get a lot of flack for being weak, this game was a good example of how powerful the werewolf tribal could actually be in Commander. The MVP of today's game goes to Tovolar. After the first Showdown game, I really questioned how good he could be as a commander of a werewolf deck, but boy was I wrong. Turns out when you play him right, he makes a huge difference in the game. I'd like to thank everybody who has showed support to our channel this year, and from everybody at the Not Your Average Meta family, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving.